Check, check. I think we're live. It is the 16th of May, 2024. This is Gimbalabs Open Spaces. We get together we've been getting together on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but we made a little decision yesterday to use the Wednesday and Thursday time differently in the upcoming weeks. We'll talk more about the calendar in just a minute. But moving forward, we're going to keep running open spaces on Thursdays and reserve the Wednesday time block for dedicated Plutus PBL live coding sessions now that that course has launched. We don't know what will happen with those live coding sessions in the short term, and it's likely that we can still use some open spaces structures on Wednesdays, even over these next few weeks, but we'll see who shows up and adjust accordingly. Glad everybody's here today. If you are catching up on this video later, you can find registration links for this and all public Gimbalabs meetings. There's several of them throughout the week at gimbalabs.com/calendar. What we do on open space days is we start with 2 minutes of quiet time. Let's set it 2 minutes, where anybody can jump onto this board. Let's get a few more sticky notes here. Grab a sticky note, and if there's anything that you want to work on, talk about, questions you have, or announcements to share, just drop it on a sticky note right here. After 2 minutes, we'll give everybody a chance to just share what they put on the board. We'll organize the stickies, decide what breakout rooms to run, and get on with the session. Does anybody have any questions about what happens now? All right. If you're not on Miro for any reason, feel free to unmute to say what you want to talk about today or drop it in the chat. Otherwise, see you in 2 minutes. Here we go. All right. I hope that was a nice moment for everybody to reflect and think about what's going on. Let's start as we usually do, just moving from left to right. I can spend a couple of minutes just after we open the session going through what is publicly available for the PPBL course, just so everybody's aware of it. I dropped these links in the Zoom chat, and I'm also placing them right here for easy reference, but more on that in just a minute. Moving over. This looks related, maybe social media postings. Who added that one?
I did, James. I thought, I mean, I just read the blog post, which is very nice, but the blog post doesn't have a big outreach. So I think we should copy that and put it in every social media we can think of, and then we all retweet and repost and get the roll going, right? So
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, let's spend like a couple of minutes just reflecting on that together, just to see how we can share those efforts, because there were some really good ideas, and we can refer back to some of the ideas from yesterday as well. That feels like it'll be useful. We don't have to spend long, but we can, I think 10 minutes, we can just quickly align on all this. Moving deeper into PPBL, Harsha and Sebastian tested the contribution platform. Newman, I have your address, but just wondering what kind of honey badger you want to be this year, before minting a token for you, so we can do that. So we can do that in a breakout room. And then if there's time, do some live work on Module 101, which will be the next piece to launch next Wednesday. Moving over to the right. Newman, some of these you?
Yeah, those are generally me. What community members are involved in Fund 12 proposals? I was looking through and I was just like, wow, there's Martin, there's Ken, and it's always one of those things where and it may be a pathological, but I'm like, oh, I want to know where the community, has things, and then I guess by next step, like how to support them. So yeah, I think it kind of gets into that promotion and social media. It's just like, what can we do? Um, the next one is figuring out the contribution portal and admin, that token address and token name and stuff, and that kind of maybe going down in here possibly. Um, and the connect the writer and editor tasks, because I think that's sort of on my top of brain. It's like, okay, I want to get the editing work done. And then what can we do to support, you know, like Claudio was saying, it's just like, okay, how can we, what can we as community members do to get the word out, or, do things in support of the new initiatives, and the PPBL students that are incoming, which is really, this is one of the things that I'm really focused on. Like, I really connect and identify with those new students coming in. I want to make sure that they're supported or feel like there's, or they see the real community that's here, and are able to give their best effort and don't get stymied by small blockers. Yeah.
Oh, that's such an incredible lens. Yeah, thank you for thinking about that. Cool. While you were sharing things, I was just adding a couple of notes here, just as a reminder to self to kind of go back to these things as needed.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, I think a lot of that will kind of connects to, if we take an entry look at just the status of PPBL, then there's a couple of different pathways, right? Going into continuing to build the course, but also telling the public story of the course. This is the beauty of having circles, right? Not everybody has to do everything. And so this becomes such an exciting way to contribute, right? We have people who, like Nelson, think it's fun to build example React components. I tend to fall into that camp too. That just lights me up, and I get so excited to build little toys together. But other folks are are better suited to tell stories and get the word out and how we connect with people, or whatever else lights you up. So it's just, yeah, this is super exciting that we can start thinking from these angles. And I can't help wondering, right? Like, there's an announcement post yesterday. Do we want to have more of a blog presence? If so, where? Plutus PBL, Gimbalabs.com, Medium, et cetera, et cetera. Because maybe just talking about the constellation of proposals coming out of different people here, that could be a really interesting thing to do a blog series. Cool. But I get ahead of myself. There's just so many fun things to address here. Is it okay if we switch just into this for just a minute, just so everybody understands what these three links are? And then we can all align on the question of how we share publicly about this before splitting into some breakout rooms? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if no objections, let's just jump into this for just a minute. I'm going to share screen over in a web browser for a moment. And there's an open question. I'm actually not sure what people's main entry point to this course is ultimately going to be. So let's take a look at what's at plutuspbl.io. Last year, the answer to that question was easy. The whole course was hosted at plutuspbl.io. This year, this is a companion site to the course itself. Okay, so Plutus PBL, as you've seen, in the course repositories, there's a menu item here at the top of the page. The first link is to the repo that houses precisely this website right here. So any changes to this repo will be reflected here. Okay. And what we're going to do is use all of this as a resource throughout the course, referring students to different example repositories. We spent a little time in the Aiken one yesterday. The Plutus one works nicely with Demeter. Nelson's been leading some PluTS experimentation. There's just some basic like bash script examples right here, which we can continue to build on over time. And what was the last? Oh yeah, and there's the nascent Asteria work that's just getting started. But other stuff could be added here too, right? Maybe a React library that Nelson builds, for example, could be a separate repo or could be incorporated here. Either approach is great, and we can always be adding links. But again, this is just resources, right? And in module 100, which is currently live, students are linked directly to this URL where they just work through the first couple of simple examples. Connect your pre-prod wallet, mint your token, and then play with the faucet. So that's all there. Any questions about just high level, this little helper site right here? This is the place where if you have fun tinkering, let's jump in. It would just be so cool for this to be a site where there's all sorts of little toys for people to play with that help people understand. I would love to have, for example, a live Asteria game happening here by the time the 200 level modules are coming out. But the sky's the limit. So if anybody's imagining anything, you're thinking, hey, for a new dev, this would be a fun thing to see. Let's keep those conversations going. So if this is not the course, where is the course? Well, right here, this link and this link go to the same place, which is the PPBL 2024 course in Andamio. You can see the list of release dates. So yesterday, 100 is fully live. People can navigate by learning target or just start from the beginning of the module. There's videos and content for each lesson, and it's easy to update this over time. So at any point, we might find a better way to say a thing. We can just update these lessons. We might just find a typo. We can update that, right? The lesson content is cheap and easy to update. What we try not to update are the learning targets, right? Our goals, the reason we're teaching these lessons, those are pretty well established. But the way we teach these things can only evolve as we respond to students who show up and as we figure out how to learn things. So that's the course itself. We have a way to assign a custom URL to this. So for example, the Mesh PBL course, which can be accessed like this, right? And which is live today officially. The first two modules of Mesh, just like PPBL, are also live right here. But there is a custom URL. This is kind of a fun feature. Let me see if I can find it. Just a sec. Yeah, pbl.meshjs.dev. PBL, right? Points to the same exact Andamio course. So if we want to add like a custom URL to Plutus PBL, we could do that. And we could use the Plutus PBL. So let's address that at some point. If anybody has strong feelings, let's talk about it, figure that out. So that's the course. And this URL might be the entry point for a lot of people. Somebody shared some feedback. By the way, let me just share this too. There's a little button in the corner, the tool icon, which allows you to drop a line to what we're calling Andamio customer support. All this really does is it creates an issue in the Andamio Git repo. And somebody, for example, added one just this morning that said, we need this part to be rich text so we can include links right here. And I agree with that. So any details as you're starting to play with this as a content writer or as a learner, feel free to tap this button anytime to just submit bugs, suggestions, feedback of any kind. Any questions about the course that we're looking at right here?
It really looks great, everybody. I mean, it really does.
Thanks, man. This UI is minimal. There's really no branding really applied. We snuck a little, tiny logo up here. We're working on improving the logo right now too. But it's right. It's all black and white. There's really no attention paid to building a beautiful, polished design. We've been focused 100% on the user experience and the business logic. So that's what
Can you do dark mode?
Yep, that's enabled right here. Okay. Yeah, I prefer that. I should do that by default because I like that better.
I really find it I like it the way it is because it's not distracting. I mean, like if I'm trying to learn something, my tendency is to try to find something to distract myself from learning something. So like the fewer distractions you put in this, I think is the better.
Yeah, so maybe it doesn't have to be much more than this. That's going to be fun to discover over time. If anybody does get really excited with a UI idea, though, I'm all ears, and it'll be fun to figure that out together over the next couple of years. I see a bug right here. For example, dark mode, these headings don't contrast. Look, if I go to light mode, I can see these headings in lesson 100.3, but I can't see them in dark mode. Okay, that's a bug to fix. So let me make one. Lesson headings in dark mode. There's no contrast. See PPBL lesson 100.3, for example. Cool. I can send that report in. And just to close this loop, let me show you this real quick. GitHub.com, Damio platform. Oh, it's a private repo right now. Yeah, I got to sign in. I think. Thought I was signed in. Just a second. Yeah, so we haven't opened this up yet just because we're still so early in development. But you remember that comment I just wrote? Here's the Git repo. Here's an issue, lesson headings in dark mode. This is the one I just added a few minutes ago. And so now, as you can see, we have a backlog of things to fix, but really grateful for any of this that comes through. So feel free to hit that button anytime. Any questions about that? All right, so
yeah.
I do have a question. I just hit start the course, and it took me to Discord. I think my Discord is going to change eventually, so I would like, is there a way for me to change that, or how that will work? I don't know, I just want to know that from the startup.
Okay, so yeah, for the first time, the PPBL course actually has a backend that is collecting some user data. And this is it's kind of a sea change, right? The course for the last few years has been provided either on existing platforms like Canvas, or last year just in an application that didn't use any servers other than a Git repo and some on-chain stuff. Andamio now allows people to make accounts. You can view the content without creating an account. You don't have to log in. But if you do log in, there's only one way to do so, and it's by connecting a Discord account. The reason we did that is there's big advantages to not storing email addresses and passwords if we don't have to. We know that in our initial batch of users, it's Web3, so Discord is common enough. And so if you want to log into Andamio, at this moment, you'll use Discord to do that. If you ever make a new Discord account, you can just log in with that account, and we can build a way. Like I haven't thought about this problem before, but if we need a way to allow somebody to move their data over to a different login, we can figure that out. So what kind of data are we collecting? Well, one of the pieces of feedback we got last year from the course is that it would be nice if you could pick up where you left off, for example. Okay. And so now that exists, these little green dots represent that I have viewed these lessons. The orange ones represent lessons that I have not viewed yet. And so if I, as a learner, I open up this page, I can say, oh, I've done all those. Okay, I haven't done this one yet. Let me pick up there. And then if I go back to the course outline, I can see now that's green. Okay. In order to provide this type of functionality, you have to store somewhere data about what somebody has looked at. This creates a slippery slope, right? We're collecting this data for people who want to use the app. But our goal is to get people to work on legitimate projects. Has anybody here ever had a teacher who's more focused on you just complying and putting your eyeballs on something and doesn't really care about the actual work that happens? And so this is a problem that I want to think about together, right? We want to provide this because learners want it. They want to know, okay, how can I pick up where I left off? And right now that we have this data, there's all sorts of, we could put a button at the top of the page that says resume course or something, and it would draw on precisely the same data. But this is dangerous. What happens if somebody builds a course in Andamio and all they really want is to get people to turn all these little circles green? Now what are we assessing? Right? Do we want to just assess whether eyeballs touched lessons, or do we want to assess that real work happened? Big question. I'll be carrying that question around. Does that make sense to people, that the way we're thinking about that? Okay. The other thing that our database can now do is store a commitment. So this assignment's not published yet. Let's go back to module 100, which is published. All right, so what's the assignment for the first module? It's to mint a token, right? And we don't have to have people submit any kind of evidence, and we just touch on that here, right? An assignment is a task that you can complete in order to prove to, number one, yourself, and optionally, if you want to, other people, right? That you have finished this module. We have a little form here that allows you to submit some evidence. So for example, I could drop in the transaction hash of my minting transaction or my faucet transaction here. Should we collect that? Let's find out together. All right. And the on-chain part that existed last year, we're leveling that up and are going to release that by the end of May. All right. So there's a couple things we get to play with together, and the experiment will be ongoing. Yeah, Steve, what do you think?
So what you were saying on that previous example about collecting data and even this one, like when you buy shit on the internet, there's a lot of information that they say that they don't see, right? That they don't have. For instance, like I wire money to an exchange, I have to give my PIN number as one. I have like 3 verification things that I just do on my computer that they say that they don't see. It's kind of like in their back, like supposedly they're not collecting it to analyze it. And I don't know if it's true. I don't know how to verify that with the bank, but in theory, it's possible because they think it up to say it, whether or not they're actually doing it. And I just think a lot of that feedback that you want to give the student, where did I leave off? I don't remember. You don't have to store that. You don't have to know that. It just has to show up when the student looks at it, right? I mean, it could be built that way, couldn't it?
The data has to be stored somewhere, right? So another option would be, right.
But isn't it stored on your computer, like when you do that stuff?
It could be, yeah, but then that status would not port. Now if I log in to the platform on another computer, that status doesn't come with me.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay. Now, why do we want people to pay attention to this, right? We want eventually, like this is the bleeding edge of Cardano or decentralized application development. And we have to be really upfront about when data is being stored anywhere. People just need to understand this stuff better because it cuts to the heart of what's unique about building quote unquote Web3 or dApps, whatever you want to call them. Okay. But it also points to, right, some of the issues that come along with this point to the really exciting frontiers of development, right? So work is underway on thinking about purpose-driven, whether you call them side chains or layer 2s, okay? And the Andamio team has a Catalyst proposal in about this. We want to spin up a Cardano side chain just like Midnight that can serve some of the role that a database would, but in a different way. That's going to be really interesting. It gets more interesting the more you understand the existing state of things, right? So the more we understand, okay, why do we have a database? Why are we having people log in with Discord at all? And once they log in, yeah, everybody's legally required to report all of that in a privacy policy, right? We'll have ours published next week. But this is, I think it goes beyond that, right? Because it's a decades old joke about how many people actually read the terms and conditions, right? We want to bring people inside of that, understand what's happening here, and then say, okay, well, what part of that is all good, business as usual? Of course, we should do it that way. And what part of that doesn't quite feel right to people? And we could maybe take a more creative approach. So we start by just talking about the state of things. And then from there, we can leap off into the next experiments, which I think are going to be really fun in this case. And Steve, of course, you can see how that then dovetails into, some kind of node operators, PBL or documentation for all of that. All right, so we have plenty of questions ahead yet to ask. And then the third link I shared is just the blog post from yesterday. We can share this around, but also maybe get it up on our Medium account, or this is like, I might try to post this on LinkedIn or an abbreviated version of it or something. But yeah, feel free to use this. copy, rewrite, remix, whatever, in any way possible. So those are our raw resources for getting the word out about the course. What other ideas are folks having? Let me go back to the Miro. When it comes to using these resources and getting the word out, what ideas do people have? Kind of connecting these questions, right? How do we get the word out? What can we do to support the rollout of the course? Student exposure, Fund 12. These are some of the ideas we talked about yesterday. Blog post, check. Initial announcement, that's what was posted. And now we can jump into social media on different platforms. I love Claudio's idea of leveraging local groups and getting the word out that way. Newman, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm just sort of like, okay, what can we do? And I think that one of them is if there is, like how I found the course was that there was like I think maybe an after town hall or at some community group where Gimbalabs was there, and it was just like, hey, if you want to learn to develop, and and it really the tone was just right. So I would love to be in that so that we sort of have like, no, there's a ton of people. Like, look at all this. Like, it's like an open house or a meet and greet. So it's like, no, if the community is here and that we get mobilized. And I would hate it if I didn't know about those things. I mean, of course, it's scheduling. We can't all be there, but it would be great if we kind of understood or knew in the calendar, like if we got those into the calendar. So it's like, oh yeah, here's I love the idea of the calendar being the sort of single source truth thing. So yeah, just events, like if there are events going on, or if like we're reaching out to different communities, maybe there's a blockchain community in your town, and like that if we showed up virtually, I think it would be cool, because then people would be like, oh, what is this? It's a real thing, and there's real community here, and yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. This concept of connecting at local events has been an ambition of Gimbalabs from the earliest days, and if this gives us a chance to experiment and level up there, that's really cool.
Like if we get, I see Chris has got his hand up, but yeah, like if for instance, all those live spaces on X, like it would be cool if we knew about them, and like somebody that's organized it or is putting it on, they don't have to show up alone, because like they just, it's just like, oh, there's 10 of us in there, and we can, and people ask questions, or, oh, I've got a story to relate. And then you get all the different voices. So it's not just James's voice, or it's not just Papon's voice. It's everybody, and then they get a sense, like a real sense of what they'll get involved in. And then, yeah. And then just figuring out what their next step is and their flow, like how to, like when and where do they get involved with the Discord, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah.
That's really cool. I'm trying to take some notes to solidify some of this, but couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Chris, what do you think?
Yes, I have I think about the announcements. Maybe it could be a good idea when you posting on the social medias, letting people know that I mean the course is already live, right? So and then some people can think they kind of late to start. So maybe it's a good idea to let people know that they can take it at their own pace, and let people know that it's live, but they're not late to join the course, stuff like that. And also maybe give some kind of explanation how it works. For me in the beginning was kind of hard to understand the difference between Gimbalabs and Damio and the way that it works. So maybe the more explanation given to people could be a good idea.
Absolutely. Good. Yeah, it's so important that we make sure to communicate that message and everything, right? The course is live and you're finding out about it at the perfect time. You can start anytime, you can move at your own pace. If it's September and you haven't started yet, that's okay. The course is here for you. And yeah, you're right. So getting just successively greater clarity about how we describe this constellation of different interacting projects, that's important. And that's why the in-person outreach is so important, right? We can come up with lots of different ideas for what people might need to know. But you know how to find out what people really need to know? Oh, we do an X space. We see what questions people are asking. And we say, oh, that's what people didn't understand. Yeah, we could do a post about that. So this is all of this is self-reinforcing, right? As we get out into the community, as we share what's here so far, but also as we create spaces where we can take questions from people, we improve our ability to communicate all of it. That's awesome.
Oh, I would love to just underline that. Perfect, Chris. This kept me from Gimbalabs for the longest time because I was like, I don't know what it is. I don't, like there's things that are, like these spaces for these groups. And I have a real thing about like being out of, I guess it's sort of out of uniform, but out of like in the wrong place. Like, oh, you're not supposed to be here. You're in the wrong place. And, uh, and so, and this is another one of like like lovely, famous, and I think it's like a change, but you started putting everyone is welcome. And when I would see that on the calendar, and I'm like, oh, this isn't a private group. This isn't a group for just the special people. This dance isn't just for the sexy people. Everyone is welcome. When I saw that, I was like, oh, I can just show up and then nature takes its course. It's this, but that just really put me at ease. I was like, oh no, this is a public thing and it's beautiful. It just everyone is welcome. And Chris, thank you for showing that up because I definitely want to highlight that. And I think that's one of the things that we can forget as we get involved, because it's like, oh yeah, of course, Andamio is Andamio and Project Catalyst is Project Catalyst, and but it is confusing when you're new, and so keep those at the top of mind, and we'll be better for it.
Claudio.
I just was wondering, maybe we could do a quick round to if people remember how they found out about Gimbalabs and the PBL course, because I don't remember. I remember I found it only last year, and you already were in the third iteration or so. And I've been around for a long time. I was in the first Plutus Pioneers cohort, like 4 years ago, and yet I didn't know about Gimbalabs until last year. And I don't. Now I'm kicking myself because I don't remember where I find out about it. But I think if we do a quick round to see which are the most effective means to reach people, would be good to know, I think.
I'm in, yeah. And Newman, you want to summarize as we hear that from people, or anybody can add notes here? Juan, what do you think before we jump into that, and maybe you can start it?
Yeah. Just thank you, James. Okay, 2 things. I think that Twitter space would be a great idea to do, just to talk only about PPVL 2024. I've been in sometimes randomly I get in Twitter spaces and they speak and you learn a lot. Don't get me wrong, but they talk too much about other things that distract you completely. So I think we'll have a great idea to have it on that. On the PPVL 2024. The other thing is the local. My point is that we don't need to be experts. We just need to be there to ask people if they are involved, and we are a little bit more involved than others. So we can provide information to them how to get involved and all that, and collect questions and bring the questions to to Tuesdays or Thursdays. Wednesdays or Thursdays. So yeah, just what I'm thinking is that we are not that many, and we are a lot of people, but then not all of us contribute, and then because we don't feel that we have the capability or we have the whatever time or whatever, but then if we try just start something like that without the first statement to be, I'm not an expert, I'm just here to learn. That helps a lot. You know, and it is me saying that, the one that is not contributing too much because of time, because I always have something to do. But I think it's important to start thinking on that direction, so we can make this a little more participative. You know, not only you guys doing the whole thing. You know, so yeah, that's my point. And I may start with with Claudio's idea. Okay, I got involved with the Gimbalabs since day one out of curiosity, and I was before involved with many conversations with groups where James was, and then we just, the idea of Gimbalabs started. I mean, obviously was James, but yeah, we started doing. I remember doing. I don't remember James. He was Gimbalabs or not, but we used to do websites for. I mean, you used to teach us how to do websites for sustainable data in the girls in Africa. Those are the two that I remember. But that wasn't Gimbalabs, right? I don't remember. Can you clarify that? You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, that was early Gimbalabs.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
That's
awesome.
me.
Thanks, Juan. And as you were talking, yeah, I think I love Newman's idea of starting to codify some of this on an events calendar. Notion is a great tool for that job, but we can use a different one if we want to. But as a starting point, as always, Miro gives us a place to start. So we can already see, right? We can imagine some spaces. Cardano over coffee is worth visiting once every couple of months, no matter what. We can host a space with the Gimbalabs Twitter account anytime. But if you have other ideas, drop them onto additional sticky notes. If you have ideas for additional events, and this can be the raw material for what eventually becomes an events calendar. So yeah, just wanted to have that there as a working document. How should we keep going down the line? So yeah, Alex, same boat as Juan. Newman, you want to move through the list like this?
Yeah, I think that unfortunately we can't edit it at the same time. If you want and it's free, then you can just go in and type. But Steve would be next in the line if Steve wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I remember a long time ago, James said one time that he regretted, his only regret about the Cardano community was that he waited so long to get involved. And I had the same feeling, because a couple of weeks ago, I popped into Cardano over coffee, they were just talking shit. I don't know what they were talking about. And I just went off on a ramble, and I said, like I think sometimes, like people talk about open and permissionless, and they're talking about, I don't know what, I think it just becomes a buzz term, to say open and permissionless, and what I was saying in that Cardano over coffee was that, I personally just kind of have been working towards this moment I'm living in right now where I have the computer and I can start up a node and then I can see what that does. I can run stuff for a DEX, or I can start a stake pool, or I can do anything that I, have the balls to do and take the time to learn. And I don't know why. And what I was saying was, I don't know why all the people that we see, on Twitter aren't more involved. And I think it's because of people don't take the term open and permissionless personally. And it's been a long process for me personally, because I just, I don't want to be a programmer, but I want to be involved. How do I find my place in that? And it takes a long time because, you do have to have some technical ability to access this stuff. But just stressing, and it gets repetitive, but teaching is repetitive. And I, I just feel like we should embrace the repetition of everything that we do in here because that's how we get good. And I for myself, I think that it really requires a little bit of that desire to just be, a proud member of the community and to say the same shit over and over again. When we host a space or when we do a thing, this is open and permissionless. You are welcome to come to Andamio. You are welcome to set up your own thing. And there are an endless number of people who will help you. Like at James' workshop last week, this Wayne, this guy with the Starlink stake pool, he was like, come on, come on to our Armada Alliance. And, like, we'll help you out and, we'll do blah, blah, and everybody's ready to do that in this community. And I think it's what it's about. Like the reason that I started hanging out on the Gimbalabs Discord was because I heard James say in this December after Charles in one of his things talking about how they weren't going to open source Atala Prism, anytime soon, and it pissed me off. And James said something similar, that he was really irritated that wasn't open source like right then, in 2020, and that really attracted me to him. And it's these little things like that catch people's attention. And the only way we can catch people's attention is to let them hear us. And I it's really hard to schedule to do meetings and Twitter Spaces and all of that stuff. But we are a growing cast of characters here, and I think we can find ways to see if somebody in the group is going to be willing to do that stuff. And I'm rambling now.
Well, no, I think you got down to it. It's basically, and Adrian might go next, but catching the attention and being heard. That's great. Adrian, quickly, and then Chris, if you like to answer the question, how did you find out about Gimbalabs?
Yeah, I found out about Gimbalabs because of James. I think it was a one-liner in the IRHK technical server. That was, I think, during or after the first Plutus Pioneer cohort. And I don't remember the exact sentence, but it was something like, hey, do you want to come and learn together Plutus?
Okay, cool. And that was in where was the Cardano technical, Discord group?
Yes, on the IRHK Discord server, on the technical one.
Okay, cool. I think Alex is passing. Chris.
Yes. You say how I found Gimbalabs?
Yeah.
Well, I was looking for a place to get some help to solve some problems that I have and to find a way to make a few things. So I want to, actually, I found it in some of the posts that Sebastian made on the LATAM community. I don't remember if it was on the Telegram group, and then I had some time and I jumped in. But like I said before, in the beginning, it was hard for me to understand the way that it works, the relation between Gimbalabs, PPBL, Andamio, all those things. But yeah, it was really helpful, and that's the way that I found it.
Cool. Thank you, Chris. Claudio and Harsha, how did you find out? Claudio first, and Harsha, how did you find out about Gimbalabs?
Hi guys, I was trying to make remember. I'm pretty sure it was some Twitter post, but I cannot recall the actual channel. So that's Twitter for me. Is still probably the most effective means of announcement. One remark I was going to say: you're proposing making these spaces and stuff like that. And the problem for that, I mean, it's good to do it, but it's limited to people who already know about Cardano. And it strikes me that this course can get people into Cardano that don't know about it. And I say it because I found out a lot of blockchain meetings and, you know, developers and stuff like that. And Cardano is pretty much absent. I mean, like hardly anybody knows about Cardano unless you already are in Cardano, you know? Announcing as and sometimes, you know, the fact that you're offering a teaching or a guidance into a system attracts people. Like, for instance, I got to learn a bit about Algorand because they offer some cool boot camps, you know? So I think this setup we have is ideal to attract new people into Cardano, even if you don't know about it, you know? So, you know, I just putting, I did a couple of posting now to local WhatsApp group with the announcements. One is to the Cardano Hub, which already know it, either they want to get into it or not. I mean, that's up to them. But also some blockchain channel groups that, you know, some people say, oh, you know, there's this thing going on. What's it about, you know?
That's perfect, Claudio. Yeah, general, like getting outside of the Cardano community. Harsha next, and then maybe Ken.
For me, I thought it was more of a journey because I heard about Gimbalabs first in Fund 7 when James presented like a closeout report or something. But at that point, it was just, okay, there's a guy called James. He seems pretty cool. And there's something called Gimbalabs, but that's all I knew. And then in the process, like I went to multiple playgrounds from different organizations, may it be Snapbrillia or Little Fish or whatever. And from there, I got enough confidence to hang out at a book club by Gimbalabs. And after that, I wanted to see if I can learn development on Cardano. So I tried not Plutus, what's that? The Pioneer program, but then it was paid. And I was like, I can't spend money. And then in Gimbalabs, there was like a free alternative. So that was my first entrance into Gimbalabs. But still at this point, I wasn't hanging out or coming to any meetings or anything. I was just trying to do the PPBL by myself. But after I started that, I had questions and I wasn't able to get through. And I wanted to see or meet people that were also doing the course. And that is when I started hanging out at Gimbalabs. So, but in general, my point is that I don't think people just hear about Gimbalabs and join. It's more of a journey. More times you hear about Gimbalabs, the more chances that they'll eventually end up here.
Well said. And yeah. Emphasizing the journey, not just one thing and then they decide, but over time and multiple exposures. That's great. Thank you much. Ken, and then live coding might be an admin, and then maybe Nelson.
Yeah, I saw James around in the early Catalyst town hall meetings and stuff, and so like I guess that's probably where I heard about all the Gimbalabs stuff, and I guess I was just looking for a place. Well, I had joined some of the Gimbalabs meetings once or a few times before, but I was looking for a place to have more discussions, sort of like that after town hall meetings, and so that's sort of why I decided to get more plugged into what Gimbalabs was doing.
Cool. Thanks, Ken. Is live coding an actual person or is it just a?
No, that's the machine.
Okay, cool. Then Nelson and Nicola.
Nelson might be busy.
Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. How are you? Hi, Niman.
Hey, Nico.
Hi, James, and I think that here is also Sebastian. Well, I met you from Modulo P guys. Well, I met them in Cardano Summit 2023. We were in a space together talking with I think that was Martin Angar from Latin Stakes Pools and also guys from Apollo Stake Pool that were hosting the space there in the summit. And well, he told me about Gimbalabs. We have a community in, well, I work in Aprendo. Aprendo is an organization that uses blockchain to make social impact. And we use blockchain with courses and like, and different kind of things to reward students. So he introduced me Gimbalabs as a place for students to make their first steps. I think that it's a great space, and I am being like a spectator of that. But I think that there is like our students in vulnerable communities, maybe they're far away from maybe involved in these spaces. But I recently saw the Andamio platform and I really love it. Also the program in Plutus. And I think that it's a very good tool that maybe our students can start using. And I will suggest it. I don't know if as this is a Spanish community or a Latin community, English is like a rough bridge for us. But well, translators are always available, AI also. So maybe in the way to the Spanish Andamio platform, I think that it's a great start for students to get involved in this knowledge. And also, well, we are launching recently the Cardano quest in our community, and I think that maybe the Plutus program may be a great quest to add to the Cardano quest spaces there in Aprendo. I can then show you some links of what the quest looks like. We also have a forum where students, when they finish the quest, they make like a review of what they saw and what we suggest them to explore in the ecosystem. So that makes them participate in our in the involvement of that quest. And well, I didn't saw the Admio platform before, so now Gimbalabs is a lot more. And I think that it's very aligned with our mission and what we want to try to take education in this format, no, with people and visions, with like this team. So I'm really glad to be joining here. I'm sorry for my English. It's a little rough.
Great to meet you. Oh, it's so good to meet you, Nico. Good things.
For
Nico,
sure.
excuse me for interrupting, but Nico, let me tell you, you have a great language. You speak very well. I mean, it's something in us adults that we think we don't, but you are doing very well on that, just to let you know. And many of us preferring to speak and to participate because we think we are not understandable, but we are. I'm still learning, and I've been here 32 years. But yeah, just this goes, and I took the time to interrupt the program because that's something that I see that we need to. That's a barrier that we need to jump into, because it's not AI will help us, but our mind needs to be with us. And the first thing we have to do is fight that tendency to think that we make errors. Nicolas, it was great way to speak, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the space.
Excellent, you got it. And we can we'll wrap up with Sebastian. How did you find out? How did you find out about? You were always here. Oh, is he around? He might be gone.
I was looking forward to that story, actually.
Yeah, me too, actually. Oh, but wow, what a great suggestion of a round. I think that was really good. And it does, like that experience that we all just related and went over, there will be another 15 people that are going to have that same story. And, you know, like getting into that headspace, I think is really going to do us well. I'm glad to be able to capture that. And thank you all for sharing.
Thanks, y'all. And Newman, thanks for capturing that. And there's just an exciting, I think as an outcome from today, this is pretty thrilling that there's kind of a tree of possible events to look at. Like everything we ever do, there's more than anybody can do at once, right? And so that means taking our time and anybody jumping in where you're most invigorated to do so. So really, really exciting to see this. I could speak for Nelson. I'm pretty sure he found us on Google, actually. So that was pretty cool. We know that has happened at least once. He found the Plutus PBL like 2 years ago there. Cool. So one fun question that I've always been wondering about, and we've talked about it before. And the reason I want to bring it back here is because I wonder, how much of a role does this play? And how do, suppose next time we're on Cardano over coffee, whoever can show up, right? Part of what we were just talking about is the clear need to help people get a handle on what we're doing here, right? We need people to understand what's the primary driver of Gimbalabs. What is an open spaces session? What is Playground? What's the relationship between Gimbalabs and Catalyst and Andamio? And there's several other organizations that we could throw into that hat. And that's all great. We need to do everything we can to be as clear as possible. But there's also a really magical space where the inability to kind of understand what kind of organization Gimbalabs itself is precisely why we're doing these things, right? We want to explore ways of coming together and working together. This is not, obviously it's not a corporation, but it's not even, an official nonprofit. There's no structure here. This is just people opting in to trying to do something together. Why would we want to do that, right? Why isn't it labeled a DAO every time we publicly communicate about it? These are exactly the things that allow us to ask, well, yeah, what might actually be new about the world we're building right now? And personally, I just don't ever want to lose sight of that. All right. There are some kinds of misunderstanding that are really powerful and productive. And we just have to pay attention for those and not miss those opportunities to nudge people and say, are you really happy with hierarchical structures that are all around you, or do you want to question those? And we can find out a lot about who we're going to collaborate with that way.
I think just to underline what Nico was talking about as far as like the educational innovation that goes on there, that I thought that was really cool. A lot of folks that were like involved with the Harsha, like being involved with the Plutus Pioneer Program, it's like, oh, it's paid, or there's a lot of like gatekeeping and strange, like who exactly is it, and yeah. So all of that, like each one of those, and it's good to hear, like that's and then that goes back to our primary driver. It's just like that was something that we didn't have last year or the years before. Like now it is like we are getting clarity through that very hard governance work. But I do know that can also become a barrier. So I wrote down like the terms and background knowledge and all of our governance sort of speak. And it immediately makes me think of possibly an initiative of like, wouldn't it be cool if there was just a glossary of terms that we use? Like, for instance, somebody that's new and doesn't know what a round is, and to have an evolving sense with clarity, that we all kind of like, oh, this is what a round means to me. This is what a round means. And it's just like, and then it can evolve and we can move away from our habitual pattern into our own like new innovative pattern. Yeah. A habitual educational model. And we know how habits are. We fall back into the habit. And I think that's what Steve was talking about. It's just like, do it over and over, always returning, coming back to the beginning. first principles. Okay, if this was all to go away, like how would we build Gimbalabs? You know, like what will we start with? Well, now we've got, because of the governance stuff that we've done, we have a seed phrase. You know, we have our primary driver. Like we can rebuild stuff based on that. We have all this input and all this, you know, inertia, which is good, but it can also, like, we can, you know, we have to continue to return. So, okay, that was my ramble.
How to keep doing it just patiently over and over again. There's
Yeah.
so many things fall into that category. Steve, what are you thinking?
Well, I was really what you said a minute ago, and then what Newman was just saying, you know, and I think that what we with Gimbalabs can do with our lack of conformity, right? You know, like we're not an LLC, we're not a DAO, we're not this, we're not that. We're people who want to find other people who work together. Why? You know, and the why, I think, is kind of, you know, the why is what kind of irritates me about the general Cardano chatter. You know, because for me, at the end of the day, you know, the real promise of blockchain technology, the real promise of being my own banker, and the real promise of having literal sovereignty over what I do with my own data and stuff like that, it's about capturing my own value. You know, like, to capture my own value, I don't have to join a DAO. I don't think. Clearly, some people think we have to organize and we have to create these things. But I think that's the wrong narrative. And I think that that's the wrong way to approach marketing on this level with who we are. You know, other people and other organizations, you know, people who are starting a gaming community or whatever community thing that they're doing, they can go ahead and run with those narratives. But I think Gimbalabs has to lean into the narrative that, hey, blockchain is about you. It's all about you. And it's about you capturing your value and living the life that you want to live, your best life. And we can't determine that. No fucking DAO is going to determine that for you. You are. And what we are is a group who want to support each other in that common pursuit. That's my thought.
Yeah.
Ken, what do you think?
Well, like what you were saying about not having a set structure to begin with, like my idea or my thought process is having a space where you can build up and tear down different structures just to experiment with how things work. And then, like, that's sort of how I think about the way DAOs should be too. You don't have just one monolithic thing that you build up and everybody is stuck in the way that it works, but you have some sort of space where you can experiment with different structures and then people gravitate towards the things that work well.
Oh man, that's so exciting. And it just gets me thinking, right? Like one thing I think would be really cool in the second half of 2024 is if each of these circles really took on an independence of its own and played around with those structures, right? We could have 5 mini experiments happening here and all be comparing notes on how that's going, independently and together, all of these little arms working. So I think there's even more room to do those sorts of experiments, Ken. I love it. Claudia, what do you think?
Just one thing we didn't mention, and it's important. It's not mentioned in the blog post or anywhere. You have your YouTube channel. YouTube is huge, right? YouTube is a new TV for most people nowadays, really. And you have all this content out there on YouTube, and you should promote it because that's the easiest way for people to see what it is about. They click on a video and they see people chatting, and they have an immediate idea of what's going on. I think it's like the most effective propaganda you can have about what it is to new people. So please put that in your announcements, okay? And second, I was wondering if in the YouTube streamings, when you upload the thing, can you add some hashtags or something so that then the YouTube algorithm can recommend us videos to other things? Because, like, for instance, I was looking for the EUTXO model. It gives me a lot of videos and this and that. And once you watch that, you got the recommendation for the next videos related to that. But none of them points to anything on Gimbalabs. So, and maybe it's because we don't hashtags or whatever is appropriate for the YouTube thing to understand. So it's worth, but it's worth it.
100%. So the only thing I'll change about what you just said, Claudio, it's our YouTube channel. It's ours. Okay. And all of us can do this. So what I can promise everybody here is I'm going to keep working longer weeks than, than our average. I'm not going to try to quantify how many hours I'm putting in right now. Okay. But all of us do as much as we can. Right. And because of whatever anybody does, they end up in positions where, okay, well, now they're a person who has done something. All right. And that's what's out here in front of all of us. Anything ever. This is something that we've talked about over and over again at Gimbalabs. We will continue to, and we're still going to be saying it 20 years from now. The only reason certain things haven't happened yet is because so far nobody had the time to do them. And that's such a beautiful, beautiful metric, right? The way we work together is by assuming the best intentions, assuming everybody's doing what they can. And what you guys need to know about me, as I'm a founder of Gimbalabs, and my intention is to be a member of this team. As a member of this team, I promise to do everything I can to build some really good educational content and to read documentation that doesn't exist yet so that I can try to create better onboarding experiences for people. I promise to keep doing that. I also promise to continue to drop the ball on communications. Okay. I don't have enough time in the week for it. And this is where anybody can jump in. Sebastian has heroically done that, running really most of the Twitter account and most of the YouTube account. If there's not hashtags on a YouTube video, it's only because somebody didn't have the chance to do that yet. But that's exactly the kind of thing that a non-developer can pitch in with. Hey, review that video, add some timestamps, add some hashtags. Why? Because this is how the world communicates these days. Every one of these opportunities is in front of us. So I encourage everybody here, look at this board we created today. This was pretty cool. I said it was going to take 10 minutes to go over this question. What we did instead is we built a plan. It seems like a lot of it was in these two circles, right? We built a high level set of stuff that outreach, advocacy, community and onboarding and trust building, all of these can contribute to. What will actually get done? Anything that somebody decides to do. Okay, that's the space we have. So thanks for this. This could be fashioned into a roadmap. I am excited to explore events calendar. And anybody who wants to get on scheduling some stuff, let's start talking about that on the Discord. But anything here, set a little reminder for yourself. If there's something here that doesn't happen in the next 2 weeks, each of us is the person we've been waiting for. Okay, so let's make sure to just keep that in mind and patiently keep doing the next thing, assuming the best. Yeah, super exciting. Thanks for this one. Yeah. We did one round. Do we do a quick checkout before we break today?
Yeah, I like it.
All right. I'll start from the bottom once again. Nelson, are you online right now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, did I represent you correctly? Did you find Gimbalabs on Google?
Not exactly. I found in developers.cardano.org.
Okay.
But I was searching how to write smart contracts on Google, and that's where I found developers.cardano.org, and that's where I found Gimbalabs. So kind of, I'm really excited for the moment we're in, and I've tried to stay on the side of building. So I've tried to learn as much development as I can, and I've tried to contribute on Gimbalabs PPBL journey as whatever stuff I can write, code, and in previous iteration I even tried. I was pretty much active in the chat. But yeah, other than that, the social media and stuff, yeah, I really hope that someone steps up, who can write stuff, who can communicate better. And yeah, let's make Gimbalabs for everyone. And that's something I'm really excited about. Yeah, thank you everyone for being here. And I had a really nice time. I was listening to all of it, even though I can't speak for a moment there. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, man. Harsha, how you leaving us today?
I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like there's enough to explore and maybe jump in wherever I feel like I could contribute most. So yeah, I feel pretty good.
Thanks. And Chris?
Yes, well, this was an amazing space, and I want to say that I really appreciate all the work you're doing here. This is amazing. It's the I think it's a perfect course for people who wants to learn developing on Cardano, doing stuff on Cardano. This is amazing. It should be founded by Catalyst. I don't know if you apply for something, but it should be, because everything takes a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of effort. I really know that even the things that sound simple, it takes a lot of time and a lot of work. So I really appreciate your work. This is amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, man. And we did indeed apply on Catalyst. Thanks to everybody who pitched in on that. Ken?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation, like talking about how people got here and what our ideas are about how things are moving forward. So yeah, I'm happy with the way things are going.
Thanks, man. That's exciting. Adrian?
Thanks, guys, for this meeting. It was fun to hear all the stories, how everyone came to Gimbalabs.
Here we go. Steve?
I'm just always, again and again, glad to be here. I appreciate everybody. It's always great getting to know new people like Chris and Nicola. And I'm excited. I stay excited. I don't know how my wife handles it.
We'll have a breakout room for that too. Juan?
Thank you, James. Yeah, great. Very, very enthusiastic about the outcome of this meeting. It touches aspects very important for the growth of the ecosystem and the Gimbalabs. And also, well, one thing that I forgot to say is that you have the vision, and you correct me if I'm wrong, of a start somewhere. You started Gimbalabs with a clear vision where you were going, but then you started doing whatever needed to be done to have it done. Am I right?
It's just probability, right? Anybody who has done one thing is a lot more likely to do the second thing. So we see that day by day. And Nicola. Oh, you're muted.
Thanks, everybody. And well, I'll be joining next space maybe so we can keep chatting. I think that, I took a lot from this, I don't know, maybe half an hour that I've been here. So I don't know if this is posted then in YouTube or something, no? So I can watch the whole meeting. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Well,
yeah, this
great.
is streaming right now on YouTube, and we can follow up sometime on partnerships with getting you guys using Andamio. We have a lot of native Spanish speakers on the team and in our community, so would love to get you guys involved.
Yeah, well, it will look great.
Good.
Of course.
Sebastian, you there? I think you had to step out. All right, and we went a little over time today, but always nice to have a chance to check out. If anybody is watching this video later, we meet on Wednesdays, Thursdays, a couple other days. Just check out gimbalabs.com/calendar. You can find links to all of these meetings, be part of the conversation. Looking forward to keeping building with everybody, and really thank you for this time today. It's fun to dive into some details and think about the stories we're going to tell. Y'all, see you very soon, and congrats on the Catalyst deadline. Cheers.
Cheers.